Raging Bull is, to my mind, the single best American movie of the year. It's the dramatization of the life of Jake LaMotta, the one-time middleweight boxing champion who has admitted he threw at least at one fight and destroyed his two marriages by behaving like an animal to his two wives. Robert De Niro plays LaMotta in the year's finest male performance. It's the portrait of a wild man out of control in the boxing ring and in his personal life. For example, here's a scene where De Niro discusses an upcoming fight with his brother, played by Joe Pesci. The year is 1947. De Niro is worried that he's too overweight to win the title, but his brother, who's also his manager, is convinced he can't lose. The movie is filmed in black and white.
I'm gonna make it down to 155. I'm lucky I make it to 160. And on top of that, you sign me for a fight at 155, and if I don't make the 155, I lose $15,000.
That's right.
Oh, you're supposed to be a manager. You're supposed to know what you're doing.
I did just what I wanted to do.
That's what I'm worried about. You did it.
You want a title shot?
What are you talking?
You want a title shot?
What am I in? What am I in a circus over here? I asked him. He's got more sense about this. What are you doing?
You've been killing yourself for 3 years now, right? There's nobody left for you to fight. Everybody's afraid to fight you. Okay, along comes this kid Gennaro. He don't know any better. He's a young kid, up and coming, and fight anybody. Good, you fight him. Bust his hole. Tear him apart, right? What are you worried about? What's the biggest thing you got to worry about?
I'm worried about the weight.
You worried about the weight?
What are we arguing about for? I just said the weight.
Okay, let's say you lose because of your weight. Are they gonna think you're not as tough as you were? You're not the same fighter? Good. They'll match you with all those guys that were afraid to match you with before. What happens? You'll kill them. And they gotta give you a title shot.
Bring me coffee, please.
Why? There's nobody else. Nobody's left. Who are they gonna give it to?
Coffee.
In a minute. You listening to me?
Please, honey, bring me the coffee.
All right. Oh.
Yeah, boy, how long I gotta wait?
Are you listening? Now let's say you win. You beat Gennaro.
Yeah.
Which you definitely should beat him. Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They still gotta give you a shot at the title. You know why?
Why?
Because the same thing as before. There's nobody left. There ain't nobody around. They gotta give you the shot. You understand? If you win, you win. If you lose, you still win. There's no way you can lose. And you do it on your own, just the way you wanted to do it, without any help from anybody.
Terrific scene. He's vicious to his wife, totally confused by his brother. He doesn't know how he can lose and still win. That look of confusion on De Niro's face is marvelous. The centerpiece of the movie is LaMotta's struggle to become the middleweight champion. Here is his championship fight in 1950 against Marcel Cerdan, and it's unlike any fight scene you've ever seen in a movie. As directed by Martin Scorsese, this fight is presented as a slow-motion ballet showing LaMotta achieving a long sought-after goal. After he wins the middleweight title, LaMotta's life goes downhill. He gains weight, starts drinking heavily, and winds up running a nightclub where he acts as the MC. De Niro put on 50 pounds just to play this scene.
I reminds me about two friends of mine. One was married, one was single.
A married guy tells a single guy, "Oh, what's the matter with you? What's the matter with you? Look at me, and look at you, and look at me, and look at you." Now, let me get on with it. When I come home at night, my wife's at the door with a tall drink in her hand. And she gives me a nice hot bed. Then she gives me a nice rub down. Then she makes passionate love to me. And then she makes me a nice dinner. What more could you ask for? You ought to try that. The other friend says, "Hey, that sounds great. When does your wife get home?"
This is a spectacular performance by Robert De Niro. I'm confident he'll win the Academy Award for Best Performance by an Actor, and he does deserve it. Raging Bull is a tough, bloody film made by Martin Scorsese, who also directed De Niro in Taxi Driver and other fine films. Like Taxi Driver, Raging Bull is a violent film, but its violence has a purpose. Raging Bull is a portrait of a violent, brutish man, a riveting look at the dark side of a tortured human being. Just terrific film.
I'm very much in agreement with you. I think Raging Bull is one of the great American pictures of the year. And you know what's fascinating about it is it's hardly ever the case that a great director like Scorsese and a great actor like De Niro work together over a series of films on the same themes. And you mentioned Taxi Driver. They also made Mean Streets together and New York, New York. And in all of these films, to a degree, they're talking about how people get filled up with violence and anger and how they react when they can't find a way to articulate their passions and their angers. And the other theme that you find in these films, and also in Scorsese's first film, Who's That Knocking at My Door, is what Freud called the Madonna whore complex. A guy who's so hung up with guilt and his own insecurities that he idealizes a girl as a virgin and as a Madonna. Then when he possesses her, then he wants to cast her aside, or he's filled with jealousy. He thinks she's tarnished. And they followed this theme now through several films.
We see that with the women in white that they always meet.
Right,
They meet her in Taxi Driver, and this woman is met in a white bathing suit. A marvelous performance by Kathy Moriarty in this film is the woman that he's chasing. That fight scene that we just saw, I think, is one of the most beautiful, evocative scenes I've seen in a long time. It's not anybody can just put punches together, but it's those succession of images, that sadness. In the midst of a brutal fight, there's sadness, achievement. This is a real artistry. This is poetic filmmaking. I'd like to see these kinds of films more than any other kind. I'm curious about the violence. How does it come up out of society? And Scorsese and De Niro seem to show it coming out of people who can only express themselves, can only be heard through violence. This is a great film.
You know, I feel a real enthusiasm on your part and also on my part. 1980 has not been one of the greatest years in the history of American movies.
Lousy.
And it's so refreshing to find at the end of the year a director and an actor working right at the top of their form, and the whole company of actors working at top form.
They're all great. That Joe Pesci is good as the brother, too.
Really good. So, a couple of yes votes, I'd say.
Very strong. But two very enthusiastic yes votes for Robert De Niro's spectacular performance as fighter Jake LaMotta in Raging Bull. We both think it's one of the year's best films.
So I guess the basic conclusion on this program is we both think Raging Bull is a terrific picture, and you're predicting that De Niro is going to win the Oscar for Best Actor this year.